Alrighty, so today we're going to do the season preview of FC Dallas, and unlike in the last episode, the season preview, when I talked about DC United and all the crazy off-season move that they have done, that's not the case for FC Dallas. I mean, yes, they definitely added some pieces during this off-season, but it seems like they have kept most of the roster, and feels like they're kind of running it back heading into this season and hope that they can go deeper into the playoffs. But nevertheless, last season was definitely a season considered to be a success because it feels like they're starting to shape up a new core that can start to be like the Dallas team that we see about 7 and 8 years ago when they were considered to be one of the top team in the Western Conference. They finished with a 14, 11, and 9 record and finished with 53 points. And in the last 5 seasons, as I mentioned, that was the highest that they finished, I think, since 2016 when they finished third in the standings with a 14, 11, and 9 record and finished with 53 points. But unfortunately, they still weren't able to get out of the dreaded second round, losing to their interstate rival Austin FC this time. Now in 2021, this was a rare off year for FC Dallas. I mean, when you look at FC Dallas and during their time in MLS and being one of the original franchise that came into the league in '96, this is a franchise that doesn't miss the playoffs often, and this is one of the rare seasons that they missed the playoffs. And they didn't just miss the playoffs, but they had a terrible season, one of the worst seasons for FC Dallas in their franchise history, finishing 11th with a 7, 12, and 15 record and finished with just 33 points, one of the lowest amount of points total that FC Dallas was able to get in a single season, and rightfully so, they did not make it to the playoffs. But in 2020, in the shortened COVID season, they did finish 6th in the Western Conference with a 9, 7, and 6 record and finished with 34 points. But unfortunately, the dreaded second round trap kind of caught them again. Or as I've said, you know, FC Dallas fans probably, you know, if you want to talk about the teams that they hate the most, obviously Houston is one of those teams that they hate because of the Texas Derby, and I'm pretty sure now it's Austin FC because, you know, you have the Copa Tijas that is going on. But I'm pretty sure there are going to be a lot of Dallas fans will also say that their most hated team that they, in their opinion, has to be the Cascadia team, because it feels like whenever they make it to the playoffs, they have to face against those Cascadia team, and they just aren't able to get past them. I mean, there was a stretch where literally all their elimination was either the Seattle Sounders or the Portland Timbers, and in this case, it is the Seattle Sounders that they lost to them in the second round. And then in the previous season, where they just made the playoffs in 7th place with 13, 9, and 12 record and finished with 48 points, they also lost to the Seattle Sounders this time in the first round. And I remember that was a thrilling game where Dallas was able to fight back 3 times to force this one to extra time and really give the Sounders all they can handle in that MLS Cup run. And I think that was probably the closest that the Sounders have came eliminated in the postseason, because I think for the rest of the way they look pretty convincing in terms of their run to MLS Cup in 2019. But in 2018, Dallas did finish 4th place with a 16, 9, and 9 record and finished with 57 points. But unfortunately, it's another Cascadia team that they lost this time to the Portland Timbers in the first round of playoffs. Now, in terms of some of the addition that they made this offseason, they added Jesus, Sebastian Ibiaga as two of the more well-known addition that they, of course, have. Jesus most likely is going to be a guy that I think is going to be slot straight into that right back position, because that's been one of the positions that Dallas has been having problems and one of the weakness that they have. But also getting Sebastian Ibiaga, a guy that, again, you know, I didn't think that him joining LAFC was the best move, because you just had a feeling he wasn't going to get a lot of playing time, and that, of course, is the case. But now he is going to be joining FC Dallas, and that most likely he's kind of the Matt Hedges replacement in that center back tandem. They also pick up a couple of guys in the draft. First, we got Cameron Lacey and Herbert Endely. They also picked up Arna Corza and Jose Milito in the offseason too. Now, in terms of some of the players that are no longer with this team and have left this team, there are definitely some key names, but certainly one name that I think every FC Dallas fans are so glad that he's no longer in the books for this team is Franco Jara. I mean, this is will go down as one of the worst DP signing and probably right up there in terms of the biggest bust we have seen a team sign a player on a DP contract. I mean, no, I don't want to disrespect Frank Hart too much with the fact that at least he did kind of produce, unlike what we've seen have some DP signing where they just didn't produce whatsoever. But again, I feel like from day one we knew that this was going to be a bad contract, and we knew that this was not going to work. And in many ways, it shouldn't be no surprise that it didn't work whatsoever, and that I think for Dallas, they're very glad that they finally got rid of his contract, and that frees up a lot of salary, and also free up, most importantly, a DP spot that this team can spend on. But they also lost Matt Hedges this offseason, and this is definitely a big loss for FC Dallas because, you know, Matt Hedges, you know how big he is in the Dallas fan base, one of the fan favorite and a guy that has been just a leader of this team for so many years. And that, again, there's even the question, the fact that, you know, I mean, he is now into his 30s, but I just kind of had a feeling they could have just kept him and re-signed him to a new contract. And especially with the leadership that he produced, I mean, that is going to be a big miss for this team. And I'm going to be interested to see how this back line is going to be. I mean, I know him getting replaced by Ibiaga, in terms of quality-wise, it's not really that big of a drop-off, but the leadership is definitely the case. I mean, that's a huge drop-off in terms of the leadership, and a guy that can command the back line, and also a good locker room present too. So yeah, this is a big loss for FC Dallas, losing thing. Really, I think you could say he's kind of like a club legend and a guy that's been there for a very long time. They also lost a couple of depth pieces in Eddie Mujoma, Khalil Almakhir, Benny Retzich, Thomas Roberts, Nicky Henderson, Lucas Bartlett, Nanu, and Joshua Quinones as some of the pieces that they lost this offseason. Now, in terms of the strength of this team, it's got to be the attack and the midfield. I mean, this front three that FC Dallas had, I feel like it's very underrated. I mean, when you have the likes of Jesus Ferreira, Alan Velasco, and Paul Arriola, and the amount of production that they produced last season, yeah, I think that's a really good front three. I mean, there were times that that front three kind of struggled a little bit, but you know, when they are on, this is definitely a very decent front three, and a front three that will definitely give some scares to and ring some tears in terms of every opponent's back line that they of course face. But then of course the weakness of this team, I think you could say that the depth is one of the weakness, but also the defense, because, you know, again, you know, losing Matt Hedges, that is definitely going to be a tough loss, and I won't be surprised there might be some regression in terms of the defense. I mean, last year Dallas definitely had one of the best defense in the league, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Matt Hedges was there and commanding that back line, and losing him, I think that's going to be a bit of a problem. But obviously, well, not just a bit of a problem, but that is going to be a huge problem in terms of the defense can continue the level of solitude like they did last season. But I think it's also the depth of this team that, you know, they definitely might need to think about adding some more depth pieces. And again, the good thing about this for Dallas is that, you know, if they want to add some depth, they can just look within, because as I said, you know, one of the thing that this team is very blessed on is the academy. It's for one of the best, if not the best, academy in MLS, and it's been like that way for a long time. So they can definitely look within in terms of promoting some guys from North Texas SC to be in this team and use them as depth pieces. And that, yeah, I think that's also one of the things that you know, one of the benefit of having a good academy, where, you know, if you really need some depth pieces, you don't always have to go within the league and looking for some depth pieces either off of free agency or maybe getting utility players within the league. You can just look within, and you know, Dallas has done a good job in terms of that for many years now. Now, the big question facing this team heading into this season is, how much will Dallas get when they do sell Jesus Ferreira? Now, the reason why I think Jesus Ferreira hasn't really been sold off to a European team is because his production was definitely lacking near the latter part of the season, and I think because of that, that's why we don't see as much offer for Jesus Ferreira as what we thought he was going to get. Especially, he had a breakout season last year, and not to mention the fact that he also had a very poor World Cup showing for the U.S. men's national team doesn't really help his stock whatsoever. But it's going to be interesting to see how much can they, of course, get him. And the same goes with Jesus Ferreira, where, you know, can he rediscover that good form that he has in the first half and also in the second half of the season. And if he can do so, then I think Dallas will definitely think about selling him off. Probably as soon as the summer transfer window, because, you know, again, I know you want to hold on to your most important player at least until the end of the season, but if the price is right, I think Dallas would definitely decided to pull the trigger and basically accept that offer, similar to what we see with Ricardo Pepi. Though in the case of Ricardo Pepi, there was already kind of an agreement that was made, and he was able to play for the rest of the season. And I feel like that's kind of the same case with Jesus Ferreira. I think Dallas is going to listen to offer, and they're going to also listen to offer where, you know, they can sell him off to another club as long as once the season is over, then and they can sell him and they can have him join whichever European club that is looking to try to get him. Because I know there's a lot of offer for Jesus Ferreira, but, you know, we'll see when exactly is the time and how much are they going to get him. I'm assuming it's going to be almost similar to the amount that they were able to get for Ricardo Pepi just a season ago. And then the other big question is, with the Hara contract kind of offloaded, which position will Dallas use their DP spot? And I'm assuming most likely it's going to be the number 9 position, although, you know, Dallas does like to, you know, promote within, and maybe they have a decent number 9 waiting in the academy, ready for them to give him a chance to maybe play in the senior team. But I'm assuming they're looking to try to get a number 9 as a DP spot. And if they are going to get a number 9 as the use as a DP spot, we'll see whether if they can use it much more efficient than what they did with Franco Jara. I mean, again, you know, the reason why Franco Jara was bought in was because they knew that eventually they were going to sell Ricardo Pepi. So once Pepi is going to be sold off, Jara would be the replacement. When it turns out that, of course, was not the case. Now, thankfully for Dallas, Jesus Ferreira perfectly slotted into where Pepi is, and the quality in terms of him between him and Pepi wasn't really that much off. In fact, I think both of these guys are equally as good in playing that number 9 position. But yeah, that's going to be a spot that I think Dallas will be thinking about in terms of upgrading if they do eventually move on from Jesus Ferreira. But they can also look into the midfield spot, maybe add another number 6, as we've seen many teams have done nowadays, in terms of spending that DP on a number 6 and spending it on a defensive midfielder. And then finally, the last big question is, will they finally get past the dreaded second round of the playoffs? I mean, this has been something that's been in the frustration of every Dallas fans for the past couple of years, where they just cannot get past the second round. And, you know, after last season, with the way that there was no Cascadia team in the playoffs, I thought this was going to be the year that they were able to get past the second round. In fact, I think I was stupid enough in terms of predicting them to make it all the way to MLS Cup, and yeah, that kind of prediction didn't work out. I mean, it went as well as my prediction in terms of where each team finish in the standings in the beginning of the year. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be something that will be key for this Dallas team. And again, when you look at this team, there is potential that this team can go deep into the playoffs. They do have a decent core that can make a go run in the playoffs, but the question is, can they be able to get through it? And then, of course, the bonus question for this FC Dallas team: who will be the next breakout star coming out of the Dallas Academy? I mean, this is pretty much an annual big question I've been asking with this team. I mean, that's what happened when you have your one of the best academy in MLS, and an academy have produced pretty much almost all the players for the U.S. men's national team recently. So yeah, I think that's going to be something that we'll be keeping an eye on. I mean, so far when I look at some of the players and some of the star player in the Dallas Academy, there hasn't really been as much that I heard as I've seen in the past. I mean, there are definitely some decent someone, and I think when there is started to kind of news that, hey, you know, this is a guy that could be ready to be thrust into the senior team and can have a decent success, then yeah, I think that's gonna be something to watch out for. And again, you know, there's no team in the league that has been relying heavily on their academy and have been produced some great talent in their academy like what FC Dallas has done for a very long time. I mean, I know Union fans will argue that, well, you know, we've been doing that the same, but the thing with Dallas is that they're kind of the original team in terms of really believing in the academy. Like this, I think out of all the team that has started to go through this kind of academy kind of believe processes we've seen with some teams really believe in their academy and are willing to use the academy to produce some good talent. There's no team that has done that as impressive for such a long time than what FC Dallas has done for a very long time. But so we'll see which is going to be the next breakout star that's going to be coming out of the academy. And also, let me know in the comments below if you're an FC Dallas fan. What do you think of this season preview, and what do you think are the strengths and weakness? And also, the big question heading into the season: can this team be an MLS Cup contender and finally get past their dreaded second round playoff kind of futility that's been haunting them for the past couple of season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.